Welcome to the Divine Gossip Podcast. I'm your host, Mackenzie Foster, a professional psychic medium, tarot reader, and spiritual mentor, here to provide you with the next steps towards your dream reality, along with clarity and deep validation while on your spiritual journey. I have an immense passion for all things paranormal, spiritual, and of course, having some super fun chats with incredibly knowledgeable people. In each episode, we will expand our minds, ignite our inner psychics, embrace our spiritual awakening journeys, and live a super grounded, witchy life. I hope you learned something new in today's episode. Okay, hello, and welcome to the Divine Gossip Podcast. I have Libby Duffy with me. How are you? Welcome in. Thank you for coming in to the podcast. Thank you for being on the podcast. I have much hope for our conversation today. I feel like it's going to be very fun. But how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to our chats. We've talked so much on
Yeah.
Instagram and Discord where I'm just kind of like, this just feels like it's been a long time coming,
Yeah.
and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. That's such a good point. We've kind of always been in contact, really.
Right. I'm trying to remember, but I want to say it's been like 6-ish months, maybe even longer than that at this point, where we've been chatting and I've been in your Discord group, and it's like we haven't sat down and had a full
Yeah.
conversation yet, but I'm just kind of like, oh, this was meant to be.
Yes, I feel the same way. I feel very casual and comfortable with you too.
Perfect. That means a lot to me. That's
Oh, good.
always good to hear.
I know, right? I love getting that compliment. So, why don't you start by telling us who you are, what you do, and where you're at in your journey now, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Libby Duffy. My pronouns are she, they. I am I feel like I never quite know what to call myself, but in essence, I am a spiritual business mentor. I call myself the business witch on Instagram. I also will call myself a money magician. I focus in a lot on manifestation and using energetics when it comes to business and money receiving, because so much of our life is energy. Like everything is energy when you think about it. And I've really focused a lot on how the energy that we put out is the energy that is reflected back to us, for better or for worse. And just looking at the way we can change the way that our current reality is based off of how we change our what we put out into the world, essentially.
I love that. I also want to say your energy is, I know you're a mom, so immediately you give me like mom, good vibes, comfortable energy. Like I'm feel very safe with you, but also you're so chill. That's why I really, and I love your podcast. Like I've binged your podcast. Every time there's a new episode, I'm like, I'm the first listener. Like I love your podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love podcasting so much, I'm sure you might be able to relate to this too, where it's just kind of like, is anybody listening to what I'm saying whenever
Yes.
I do this? And I so much of what I say whenever I podcast is just kind of like, oh, it just came to me. Like I don't even remember what I fully said, but I know it was good. So I always look at podcasting of like, somebody needs to hear this. Let
Yeah.
me just talk. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I am also a mom. I have a 4-year-old, and it's taken me a lot to get to this point of being this more calming presence, because and this is actually something that I was reflecting on earlier today. So this is funny that it's coming up right now. But for a while, like I was so anxious as a mom, and that was the energy I was putting out. And so then chaos and mess and everything was the energy that I was receiving back. So, like, talking, yeah, sure, I'm coming on here talking about manifestation with you today, but realistically, energy is energy and it can be applied to every single facet of our life, whether it's like looking for a relationship or being a parent or like going to a job interview or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know what you mean on just talking, you feel like you're talking to an abyss and you're just like, I'm just going to talk about whatever. Because we're
Yeah.
such channelers too. Like we just
Yeah.
kinda channel it out. But yeah, I love your podcast. And I totally know what you mean about energy and stuff. So you are creating, my AC is going to kick on and off. So sorry if you hear that.
No, it's okay.
But you came out with a new membership, correct? The
I
manifestation spell.
did. Yes.
I
So
feel really called to like showcase that. So why don't you tell me all about it?
let's do it. It actually started as a group mentorship program,
Okay.
but I recently had my year 4 biziversary, and I was looking at like, because I'm also a Capricorn, and naturally I'm looking at like, what is the sustainability of what I'm doing? What is the value of what I am doing? Because like, yes, I have a business and yes, I want to make money from my business, obviously, but also at its core, like, is what I'm doing actually helping people? Like, is it serving the general community? And that's another focus that I think that we need to think of. And really, it should be at the forefront, in my opinion. And so I was looking at my current business model and I was like, wow, my current business model is so much scheduling, because with the group mentorship, it was like weekly calls. And then they also get this add on and then this thing that way they have to schedule. And it's like, there is so much scheduling. And then I was looking at like everybody on Instagram. I feel like the number one thing anybody talks about is time, and like the lifestyle in our day of, we want to have freedom and we want to have time to do whatever we want to do within our businesses. And so I was like, huh, my business model doesn't even fit my current life, what I want my lifestyle to be like. So I dropped it down to a membership and it feels so much more aligned. So with the manifestation spell, the overall outcome has not changed. It is very much focused on having people look at the energy that they're putting out into the world and like, oh, hey, am I receiving back what I want to be receiving back? And what is the tie-in between the two? It's focused on changing the way that we think and feel about money, because I don't know how anybody else was raised, but I was raised by a stay-at-home mom. And then my dad worked like 60 plus hours a week, always took the overtime, did like this really hard manual labor kind of job. He hated it and he was always miserable, and he never played with me and my sister. And so having coming from the mentality of, oh, you have to work ridiculously hard, you have to work for a company you hate, you have to sacrifice time with your family, you have to do this, that, and the other thing in order to have a stable lifestyle. And for me, I don't even remember how long ago this was, but at one point I had this wake up of, I don't believe this. Like, I don't buy into this. And honestly, it was probably right after I had my child. And then I started working 9 to 5 again. And I was like, you mean I have to take time off work to take care of my sick child? Like, whose idea was this?
Yeah.
So, but like with the way that our current society is, and at least this is true for me, we didn't have the ability for me to just be a stay-at-home parent. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to build something that I want so that way we can have more freedom. And in that mentality, it was like really looking in at the lifestyle I wanted. And that's something else that I'm bringing into the manifestation spell of like, what is your current lifestyle? Is this the lifestyle you want? And then how can you set yourself up to get the lifestyle of you want. Everything that I do is very end in mind focused and very emotion and energetics focused.
Mm-hmm. And I like that you have a focus on lifestyle too, because what I found with my clients and with myself and whoever with manifestation, like, yes, you do have to set yourself up for success. Like, you have to be there for yourself and hold yourself accountable and put yourself in the right environment to produce the goals that you want or the dreams that you want. Um, but it's also funny because I do find sometimes people, and I feel like I've experienced this myself, is like the lifestyle that you're in, the lifestyle that you want, there's like self-sabotage that can come up. Like, what's holding you back from having that lifestyle? Like, why don't you have it already? Like, I like that you're
Right.
adding that because you can go deeper with that, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. And that's why I add in shadow work into the manifestation spell, where I'm just like, okay, why do you believe this? Like for me, I can look at it and be like, yeah, I definitely have my dad's kind of like money shame that I had to work through. So it's different for everybody. And I'm just kind of like, all right, there's probably something that is keeping you, whether it's a thought. And was just having this conversation earlier today with somebody about how it can just be the littlest tweak in how you think. And then all of a sudden you change it and you go, oh, I get it now. And then you
Yes.
can't stop thinking about how it was this one tiny thing that you didn't even realize.
Yes, a lot of the time it's just us holding ourselves back and it's a lot more
Yeah.
simple than we think. Yeah. 100.
Yeah. And so back in April, I think I had this epiphany because I took a time off from podcasting and from even posting on the spiritual side of my business because I was just like, I feel like nothing's working. I feel like I'm a terrible manifester. I feel like this, that, and the other thing, like essentially just kind of like shitting on myself and feeling sorry for myself. I feel like we've all gone through that period. And then at the end of April, I had this epiphany of, no, wait. I've actually been manifesting my goal amount this entire time, but it's coming to me in ways that I didn't expect. So for me, and it like maybe this is the Capricorn showing, it was always about like wanting to control where abundance was coming from and where I was receiving my manifestations. So, and like I've looked back at old journal entries, I'm just like, wow, it shows. But I was always like, I will receive this money from my business and it'll be from like yoga classes and tarot readings. And instead, I was receiving money and other things of in the form of like, oh, your credit card was refunded. I got somebody paid for my coffee ahead of me in the line. Like these little things that really truly add up. And I was just sitting there because of course it was during a savasana for a yoga class and I was like, wow, I've been blind this entire time, and I've taken a lot of that experience into what I'm doing now within my business of it really is the things that you never expect for it to be.
Mm-hmm. It's like it's so important to intentionally stay open on your
Yes.
journey because it's so easy to get just tunnel vision on what you think you want or you think you have. But if you just like open your perspective just a little bit, you'll unlock like a whole new world. Just stay open and you see
Yes.
a lot. Yeah.
And when you stay open, really crazy things start to happen. So I I share this story and I always feel weird sharing about it because I sound ridiculous, but last year I really wanted to redo the fence and the front porch at my old house. And I was like, well, we don't really have the finances for me to be able to do this, but like I really want it. And then a tree fell on our house and
Lovely.
it it took down the fence, it took the conduit for our electricity off the house, it damaged a window, it damaged the porch, like it damaged all the things. And so of course I had the initial reaction of like, this is terrible, like everything is shit right now, and I feel like the universe just is conspiring against me. Well, we have homeowners insurance. And so they were just like, yeah, we're going to pay for everything to be repaired. So through this, we got the new fence, we got the new front porch. When we needed to replace the conduit on the house, the electrical company noticed that our electric system was not up to code. So they had to bring it up to code. So like Yeah, I manifested a tree falling on my house by accident.
I love that so much.
It's just it's both really funny, but it's also really frustrating because you're just kind of like, "Universe, you son of a bitch. I love you
Yeah.
so much, but, like, this is not what I meant."
Yeah, like, wow, that's, a tree. Okay, that's one way to do it. Yeah.
Sure, tree on the house. Yeah, okay.
Definitely what we wrote down in our journal, but okay.
Yes, yes,
So I want to get your perspective on, I know this is kind of a broad question, but I want to
sure.
get your perspective on what you believe manifestation is, because I think there's so many definitions out there.
There really are so many definitions, and because I have used manifestation in so many different areas of my life, I always take it at the really broad definition of taking this abstract thought or this dream that you have and turning it into your reality.
Love that.
So, for example, the first thing I ever used manifestation for was actually manifesting my now partner because I like during my mid-20s, I got to the point where I was like, okay, the hoe phase is no longer what I want. And I want to actually have a stable relationship and feel supported by that. So I wrote out like all of the things that I wanted in a partner and what kind of traits I wanted them to have and like all of these things. And I'm like, I'm not going to settle for anything less than this list right here. We're not doing any more of this you up kind of thing and holding myself accountable. So when I switched my energy from hoe phase to I'm looking for this person, the universe fell in. Like, of course, it takes a little bit of time for your energy to change. But when you start putting that energy out consistently, then you get all of that energy reflected back to you.
Hmm.
And then, like, I've used manifestation to manifest my dream house, and I've used it to manifest money. And I feel like I've used it in so many different areas.
I love that. Yeah, I think that broad definition was actually really nice. I've never heard it before. Just I like the idea of adding your dreams into it, because it's not just about like, oh, I mean, sometimes it is, but manifestation doesn't have to just be about like quick cash or like getting the guy to text you back or like something simple. Like sometimes, yeah, you can do that, but it's literally a lifelong practice that you can use to create an entire life that you want. So yeah. I
I have always found that manifestation is so much easier when you put your emotions into it. And by that, I mean like how you're going to feel at the end. Like everything with manifestation is like, usually for me at least, it's always been very end goal specific. So it's like, okay, goal, stable, healthy relationship where I can trust a person. Cool. Then how are we going to get there? How am I going to feel once I have stable, healthy relationship? Same thing with money. Like I want to receive X amount per month. Okay. Why? Because I want to have freedoms. I want to be able to pay my mortgage. I really am passionate about electricity and running water. And I like having my car full of gas so that way I can go do the things that I want to do. How am I going to feel once I receive X amount per month? I'm going to feel empowered and happy and excited, and I'm going to feel confident in my abilities. Like getting into the nitty gritty and the energetics has always been my success point.
I love that. I love that so much. I think the first thing I manifested, I was 15 when I got into all of this stuff
Hmm.
and all of the spiritual stuff, my awakening, if you will. The first thing I manifested was I was living on my mom's, and I was 15, and we had this hurricane come in and it shut off all the power. And I was, of course, like freaking the fuck out because my phone doesn't work now. I'm 15. I'm like, where's my YouTube?
Yeah,
Where's my Snapchat? Like, what the fuck's going on?
right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, I just learned about manifestation. So I wrote down 33, you don't have to do this shit, but I wrote down 33 times, 3 times in a row, the power's back on, the power's back on. And after I did that, literally 5 minutes later, it turned back on. And I was
That's
like,
amazing.
thank you. And I literally felt so magical because I think my point in bringing this up was I feel like back then it was easier to manifest because I didn't have as much limiting beliefs and traumas and all this shit like holding my power back because like back then your inner child is so just like fucking magical and free and like nothing is whole. I get chills like as I think about my child self because I would manifest shit like that all the time. Um,
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts on that? Do you agree?
Oh, I agree with that completely because so very similar to you, even as a teenager, I was identifying as a witch and like
Yeah.
pagan belief system. And at the time, I didn't know the term manifestation. I didn't know, I didn't know where all of these thoughts were coming from. I didn't know, I didn't even know to look for the things coming to me. My mom growing up, my mom always called me charmed. Like
Hmm.
I was very lucky and I could just get the things that I wanted. And
Yeah.
I would just randomly have people compliment me or get the free coffee at Cumbies and get like all of these random things. And you are 100% right, where it was like my teenage self didn't have any of the limiting beliefs that I had to work through in my late 20s, and she she sure as hell did not have any of the like societal pressures because she was very much like, I'm a teenager, whatever. And I think that when you're in that headspace of like, oh, this is just how it's going to be, cool, let's do it, then you can manifest like that.
Yeah.
And so your teen self and your child self just gets it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that means when we're manifesting as adults, when it's obviously feels a little bit more difficult, tapping into our inner child is pretty valuable then, right?
That is why I use shadow work in
Yeah.
manifestation because what I have found, and for me, it's always been my inner teen. Like, what does my inner teen need me to do in order to manifest this? Um,
Love that.
And I think, and for different people, it could be different things. But like I had a job ever since I was a teenager, and I had the 9 to 5 mentality crammed down my throat from a very young age. So that's why for me it's inner teen. And then for other people, it's younger inner child. It all depends on your upbringing and the events that happen during certain age brackets. But like tapping into that part of yourself and doing the shadow work for that part of yourself is so valuable because there are so many keys that you can find within it.
Mm-hmm. When you say shadow work, what does that look like in your space? Do you use like journaling, meditation, like stuff that goes into your subconscious, tools like that?
Yes, I do. So I do journaling prompts within my space. I do EFT tapping. I do guided meditations. I'm looking more into in the future doing more like hypnotherapy kind of stuff, but I currently don't have enough research in that for me to bring to people at this point, but it is in the works. I do also like to use tarot as a way to look at the shadow self as well because I tarot can provide so much insight if we allow it to give us that much insight.
Yes.
So I love using tarot cards when I'm working with people
Mm-hmm.
because it like we get so caught up in the ego self-limiting beliefs and we just get stuck in this loop and it's so hard to break out of that loop where I feel like with tarot you can be like, okay, what does my shadow self need me to know? And you pull the cards and you're like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. And I
Wait, what
have
a
found
great
it,
question. I love that question.
I use it all the time. It has been so impactful. I've done a lot of research. I shouldn't say research because this is all like I make it up as I go along.
Yeah.
To be honest, like I make it up
Yeah.
as I go along.
I love
And
that.
I'm like, I'm just going to I was so into tarot when it finally clicked for me of how I can use tarot and I learned all the meanings and everything. It's like I had this hyperfixation moment of like, okay, how can I use tarot for this? How can I use it for this? And I've just learned so much through it.
I love that. I have a question.
Sure.
What do you think in your experience, whether it's with your clients or with yourself, what do you think is like the most like misunderstood aspect of manifestation? Like what do you think people think about it and you're like, that's actually not how it works?
So I don't want to call out your 15-year-old self here, but I have for me
No,
personally, I've
please
never
do.
had any luck with the 33 by 3 method or the 55 by 5 method because in my opinion, manifestation is more than just setting intentions and it's more than just wishing for things. Like
Yeah.
when it comes to manifestation, for me, it's always been energetics driven and like goal orientated. And also, I think some people forget that you're supposed to take action with your manifestations. Like if you're manifesting winning the lottery, but you never buy a lottery ticket, how are you going to win the lottery?
Right. Yeah.
If you are manifesting 20K months within your business, but all you offer is this one low ticket thing or these two lower ticket things, how are you going to make 20K months without burning yourself out? Like it's still possible, but you will probably end up burnt out in the process.
Mhm.
So taking aligned action is a huge part of manifestation.
Mhm. Do you think scripting works with action or do you think scripting
Yes.
yeah.
Because and this kind of goes into the limiting beliefs aspect of it, because what I have found is I'm trying to word this correctly so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so a lot of the things that I do end up going into more of the like nervous system regulation kind of space of things where your brain has all of these thought patterns, and this is where your subconscious beliefs lie. So, subconscious belief, in order to have a stable lifestyle, you need to work 40 plus hours for a job you hate. Okay, where did this belief come from, first of all? Second of all, does it match what you want your lifestyle to be? No. Okay, so how are you going to change this belief? I have found scripting and visualization practices to be so helpful with changing your thought patterns away from the learned belief to the belief that you actually hold to be true.
Mhm.
Um, so and with visualization, the cool thing about visualization is your brain doesn't know the difference between what has really actually happened or what it has just seen happen. So if you can visualize pulling up your phone, looking at the bank account app, and there's like $1 million in your bank account, and you can hold that visualization, your brain is just going to be like, oh, yeah, I've seen that. So it must be true. It must be possible that I can have $1 million in my bank account just because my brain has shown me it.
Mhm. I completely agree. I think retraining your brain scripting is a very good way to do that. And I think that's why when I look back on it, of course, when I was 15, I thought I was like magical and whatever. But really, I was just retraining my brain to believe it. And then I actually just remembered as you were talking, I went to the Dominion Energy Power website and like filed a million requests.
Right.
And then they actually like listened, obviously, or whatever. But
So
it,
you set your intention and then you
right.
took action. Love it.
Right. And
Yeah.
then it worked. Yeah. Like I manifested it. And yeah, so you're totally right. Both aspects are completely important. I find that when I script, I feel like nowadays, and I don't know if this is going to make any sense, hopefully, I feel like my brain can easily, I'm very open-minded naturally, so I can
Mhm.
easily like retrain a limiting belief and prove my brain wrong and like train it or whatever. Um, reframe it is what I meant to say. But what is the hard part for me is I feel like I don't know if you're familiar with human design, but I'm an emotional authority. So I'm very
Okay.
much a feeler. So I go with my emotional wave, and I feel like if I don't feel the manifestation, if I don't actually truly believe in my heart that it's happening, then it won't happen no matter what my brain thinks. Does that make sense? Like,
That makes a lot of sense. And I think human design, so caveat, like I don't know that much about human design. I've had readings. I know I'm a generator, but I'm not like, I would not consider myself a subject matter expert on the human design, but I do think that human design comes into play with what we're able to do. So, like for me as a generator, I've noticed that my manifestations come when I bounce ideas off other people and I have conversations and I kind of talk it into existence.
mhm.
So and for you, like you are very intuitive and you do a lot of stuff by your gut, it sounds like. So if you are feeling your manifestations, then I think that makes total sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's just interesting how like our bodies can feel a certain way, or our hearts and guts
Mm-hmm.
can feel a certain way, but our brain can be on a different page. It's so interesting.
It's the ego self versus the intuitive self, right? Where
Yeah.
your ego self is so easily swayed by like societal norms and that kind of thing. But then it changes like all the time based off of new information. Your intuitive self is always just kind of like, no, this is true 100% of the time, and you can't change me.
Right, exactly, exactly. Especially when you're such a deep feeler. I feel like,
Hmm.
and I've been seeing this a lot on social media recently, these past few days, is what keeps coming up on my For You page on TikTok is use your intense emotions, specifically even your anger, as power. How, like, are you familiar with that? Because I'm such a feeler, I'm such a deep feeling person, but I've never actually used my emotions to my advantage in that way. How do you think like emotions play a role in manifestation, if that makes sense?
It makes a lot of sense because so I'm also a yoga teacher, and because of that, like I think of things as so like stored emotions, for example. Like so if you are storing anger in your body, then you're probably going to end up with tight shoulders, you're probably going to end up with a tight neck, and you're going to have all of these racing thoughts, and you're just like, why am I feeling like this right now? So if you can find a way to channel it and use it into manifestation, and I also think that emotions, while they are very good for helping you manifest for like the end goal, they can also, I don't want to use the word block, but like they can also hinder
Challenge.
you at it, they can challenge you, thank you. They can challenge you at the same time because if you are taking action from a place of anger, then how do you think that your manifestations are going to end up? Versus are you taking action from sadness? Are you taking action from joy and that kind of thing? I think that it can be, I think it would be really interesting to see where using it as a motivator and obviously like human nature, we're emotion driven creatures just at the get-go. So and we've all seen how anger and desperation and sadness can drive people to do things.
Mhm.
So I actually really like that. I haven't seen that much on my For You page, so I would be really interested to see some of those. So
I
if my
know.
phone is listening to me right now, show me some of that.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I've actually never sat down and watched a video of someone explaining it. I always just kind of scroll past them, which I probably should watch them. But I would guess that the turning your anger into power would be feeling the emotion, moving past it, and then having
You gotta feel it.
yeah.
Yeah. Because so much, and especially like people born as female, where anger is typically kind of like swept under the rug of like, why are you mad? Why are you so emotional? Why are you like this? Why can't you just smile and pretend everything is fine? And that is how those stored emotions end up coming up, and which
Mhm.
is going to take away some of your power. So I really like that, where feeling your feelings, and that's been my whole thing, both on my spiritual side and on my mom's and business side of like, no, you should feel your feelings. Otherwise, they do erupt at some point.
Yes, which can get messy.
It gets really ugly when you just allow emotions to fester.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's why I like the way you approach manifestation because it is so easy nowadays to get into like the spiritual bypassing world where like negative emotions are bad and they should just like ignore them. And no, like you have to get to the root cause in order to move past any limit.
I the good vibes only stance in spiritual and in yoga communities on Instagram. I'm just like, what? Guys, vibes are vibes. Like, can't we just learn from them regardless what they are? And then also, let's all remember for a second that this negative energy that people are talking about, technically, plants give off negative energy because they give off negative ions.
Mm,
So,
period.
yeah, like let's think of I'm a huge nerd. But like from a science standpoint, we know if high school physics has taught me anything, which it wasn't much, but
Same.
energy cannot be created or destroyed, right? So energy is always circulating around us, and different things have different energy. And plants just so happen to give off negative ions. So technically, the plants that I have around my office and throughout my entire house are putting negative energy in my house. Like,
But
like, why are we doing good vibes only when all types of energy are around us at any given point in time? And also, show me a spiritual or yoga loving person who doesn't have a plant in their house. So,
right, that's such a good point. Like all energy can be appreciated and shifted and it can look beautiful and
right.
beautiful. Like, what the heck?
Right. So plants can give off negative energy, but we as humans can like transmute that into feeling positive. So regardless if it's good vibes only or if you're allowing in the negative energy, then like it all depends on how you want to use that energy.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Is there any manifestation rituals or practices or tools you use that, well, what have you been doing lately to manifest? Like, what is your most recent form of manifestation?
I am such a journaler, and I love pen on paper. From an environmental standpoint, I really wish I was a person who could do it online, but I just cannot do it. I'm such a pen and paper kind of person. So I write in my journal. I actually have it right here. Pretty much every day, I'm taking the time to write in here, and I go into like I talking about what I want to receive, and I do it based off of like my monthly manifestation goal. So how much I want to receive, what is the kind of timeline that I'm looking to do this. So if I'm doing this for every month, then, today I wrote out like, oh, I want to receive blank amount in the next where 31 days, 15 days. And that means that I still need to receive Y amount in during that time period, and talking about, and then I always include an intuitive practice. So I'll write out my tarot reading, so what my cards were for today, and then what I take that meaning to be. And then I like to write out what I plan on using my manifestation goal for. So like I want to pay off my last credit card. I want to buy the flights for my friend's wedding in April. I want to put X amount to savings, like that kind of thing, writing out where you want it to go. And then talking about like, so the feeling after the fact. So how am I going to feel when I receive this amount. I'm going to feel excited for my friend's wedding because the flight is the only thing that I have to pay for at this point. I'm going to feel powerful as all hell that I got that last credit card out of the way and now I don't have to make that payment anymore. Super
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
I'm going to feel safe knowing that I have money in my savings account in case I need it. I'm going to feel I also wrote out that I want a spa day. So I'm going to feel relaxed because I get to go to the spa and I get to have a facial and a massage and it's going to be wonderful. So I go into the how I want to feel when I have it again because like the energy that I'm putting out into this, it's not like for me at least I'm not very much of a material kind of person. Like, yeah, I appreciate a nice bag. I like a good pair of shoes, but that's not why I'm interested in this. For me, it's always about lifestyle. Like, I want to have the easy, comfortable lifestyle of, oh, I can relax at the spa when I need to relax at the spa. I can go spend time with my friends, even if it means that I have to hop on a flight because he lives ungodly far away. And so obviously it's going to depend person to person, but for me, that is the way I've been doing it. And then I do my visualization practice every morning when I first wake up. I like to do visualization while I take a shower, and I like to use my showers as like a cleansing ritual. So, wiping off any of the stuff that I don't need in order for me to reach my goal and really using it to clear out my energy.
I love that so much. I've been loving using showers as like a cleansing spiritual experience because normally I just use it to like blast Beyonce and like get clean and that's it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
like it can literally you can put intention into anything and manifest anything with anything. It's so
I I was really looking I started doing this a little bit ago because I was really looking for a way to do more for my spiritual practices, but not like take a shitload of time to do them because I
right.
just don't have a shitload of time to give to everything in my life.
Yeah.
So, okay, I take a shower every day. That's 15 minutes every day that I could do a spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm. I love that. When you say feeling, when you journal and you
Mhm.
write down the feelings that you are wanting to feel because of this manifestation, just for listeners, what does that do? Why is it important to feel the feelings that come with the manifestation and not just like what it is?
So it's important to I so the way I do it, whenever I write down my feelings in my journal, I never write them like da 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 da. I'll always sit there and allow myself to feel them for a little bit because it reminds me what I'm working towards.
Mm,
And I think it's so easy when you are in the especially if you're in the Instagram, like TikTok business space, it's so easy to get caught up in the always wanting more. And it's so easy to get caught up in the oh, well, they're making this amount. Why aren't I making this amount?
mm-hmm.
And instead, if bring it into your feelings, what is going to feel empowering and wonderful and right for you. So that's the first thing I always like to mention. And it's also why I don't share how much I'm like my manifesting goal amounts because I'm like, this is what works for me and my family versus somebody else is probably going to be looking at a different number. And also, I don't think we should be comparing ourselves. I think we should all be looking towards the number that feels good and comfy for us. So I like to sit and allow myself to feel the feeling so that way I remember what I'm working towards. And it also makes it easier to recognize when those manifestations are coming to you. So I visualize feeling relaxed and wonderful at the spa. So that way, when I'm at the spa and I'm getting that facial, and of course, the feeling of relaxation is going to come over me, I'm going to be like, yep, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted this feeling of this moment is all for me kind of thing.
I love that. I love the first point you said, especially because it's so especially when you're learning how to manifest and starting to do it for
Yeah.
yourself, it's so easy to just compare what you think you should be doing or feeling or getting to everyone else. But taking a moment to connect to how you feel about it is just so much more empowering and authentic and true to yourself, obviously, because you're getting in touch with what you really want and what you're really creating instead of like what your brain thinks you should be or something.
And I also think that in this space, there's a lot of like, it's almost like milestones. Oh, you have to reach 2K months before you can reach 5K months. You have to reach 5K before 10K. And it's like, why not? Why can't I just want 15K because I want 15K?
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
What? Because I also want money left over so that way I can donate a portion to charity every month.
Right.
Like, come
Yeah.
on. The reason why I'm in this, so I think I fell into it. Like, I started off by being like, oh, I want 5K months. I want 5K months. I want 5K months. But also, if your energy is matching for higher and you are lowballing yourself,
Right.
that can also keep you from reaching your manifestations because the universe is practically screaming at you for you to go big and to
Yeah,
stop downplaying your worth.
absolutely. And I think that also loops into inner child work because especially if you tap into your inner child,
Yes.
there is no restriction there. Like if that inner child energy is pure magic, pure openness, no restrictions, no limitations. So if you're tapping in your inner child meditation moment and then you go to journal and you're still lowballing yourself, it's like, dude, you got to stay open.
When you start doing inner child work, you realize just how infinite you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I try and do inner child work at least once a month because
Smart.
I swear that I end up learning something new every single time.
Oh yeah, it's infinite for sure, which is kind of
Yeah.
overwhelming, but it's supposed to be fun.
It's overwhelming. I remember the first time that I did started doing inner child work, it was very overwhelming. All the stuff that came forward and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I should be doing this." But then I also get the feeling of like, "Oh, well, I've started, so there's no going back now."
Seriously, yeah. I mean, you open that box, it's no going
That's
back.
it. We're doing it.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. I want to ask you like some fun questions that I have while we're wrapping up.
Yes.
Okay, if you could manifest anything right now without any limitations, what would it be and why?
Oh goodness. I would manifest a yoga retreat in Salt Lake City, Utah. I
Wow.
don't I don't know why, but Salt Lake City, Utah has been on my mind for like the past 2 years.
Weird. Have you ever been there?
It's so weird. I have no idea. I've never been. I
You
I've
should look
seen
at
I've
go
seen pictures from when a friend went and like all the canyons and everything were gorgeous and but these past couple of years I've just been like I feel like I need to go out to Salt Lake City. Why? I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get there.
I love that. You should look at your astrocartography chart and see if any of your major placements like run through Utah.
That would be cool. I've seen a little bit on astrocartography, and I think I looked at it one time, and there's so much to learn there.
Yeah, it's kind of insane, but it's cool sometimes. It's cool. What I guess you kind of already answered that one. If manifestation, ooh, this is weird. If manifestation was a superpower, what would your superhero name be and what would be your signature move?
Oh my
I feel like
goodness.
you had a lot of cool titles in the beginning when you were like,
I would probably go with the money magician, and
I knew it. I was like, I love that one for you.
it would probably be the money magician, and just I would just make magic happen and like give magical moments to other people.
I think the reason I love your way of manifesting so much is because you do have that Capricornness where you're so logical and practical about it and not so like woo woo good vibes only. Like you're like, no, we're doing the real deal and making shit
No,
happen.
guys, we're doing the work. We're doing the
Yeah, we're
work.
working on it. Yeah.
And also Cancer moon, we're going to feel our feelings, guys. Let's go.
Oh, I love that you have a Cancer moon. That's perfect. What's your rising?
It really makes a lot of sense.
It does. What is your rising?
Leo rising.
I'm obsessed with you. You're so cool.
It's quite the chart.
It is quite the chart already. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience about manifestation or anything you have going on? Or I'll put all your information on how people can work with you in the episode notes, but anything you want to share?
Um, I really think it all comes down to staying open to possibilities and whatever you were taught to believe, it doesn't have to be true for you. And if you are open to changing your life for the better, then you are 1000% capable of changing your life for the better. Like I remember driving home one time and looking around and just being like, this is not the reality I want. And I just decided I was going to change it.
Mm.
So it all comes down to a choice. Manifestation, changing your life, all of it starts at a choice.
And I highly recommend everyone checking out all the tools you listed, like getting into journaling, EFT, meditation, visualization. That stuff is not just, we're not just saying it. It actually does work because we've both done it and it's worked. So get to it. Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Work, bitch, Capricorn. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate you sharing everything and answering all my questions.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Of course. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to rate and review Divine Gossip on whatever platform you listened in on. Head to the MackenzieCollective.com to work with me further. If you have any questions or have any topics you want me to cover or any guests you want me to have on, please email all of that to info@themackenziecollective.com or go to the episode description to fill out my Google form. I love you. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episode.